Radio 88.7 FM. Online, gobrave.org. A tune-in radio station. Part of the William Patterson Broadcast Network.
Broadcasting live from Hobart Hall in Wayne, New Jersey.
This is
The Innovative.
I think they're really unique.
The Fearless.
They have awesome variety.
The Kick-Ass.
I love Brave New Radio.
The Sensational.
I've never heard anything like it.
This is the one and only Brave New Radio.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the host and guest and are not necessarily supported by WPSC 88.7 FM, station management, or the station owner, William Patterson University. Anyone wanting to offer differing opinions may do so by calling the show at 973-720-2738. Abusive callers will be rejected. Now here's your program on WP 88.7 FM, Brave New Radio.
Well, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you. And yes, once again, Saturday morning has arrived. As my guests call me, an early bird. Yes, on Saturday mornings, I do become an early bird. I'm early during the week, but I'm extremely early on Saturdays as I get up to join you on the Reading Circle with Marc Medley. And this is your host, Marc Medley. As I said, we come to you live each Saturday morning from 6 o'clock a.m. until... and we bring you what's going on in the literary world. Hopefully the goal and the objective is to inspire, entertain, motivate, and inform. In other words, you get a little bit of all of it as we have these various interviews with our various authors. And you're certainly going to get that today, as this morning we're going to be talking about a topic that is germane to every last one of us who are in the listening audience, whether you're listening live or if you catch it on an archive show or you catch it on my YouTube channel or if you catch it on another website. The topic we're talking about this morning is apropos or appropriate for anyone who wants to stay alive. It's that simple. That's what we're going to be talking about in a couple of minutes. So any of you that have been listening to the show for any amount of time, you know the routine. And for you first-time listeners who happen to be tuning in for the first time, good morning to you. What I do is I read from two books. Actually, I share the weather first. I read from two books. I introduce my guest. I share some information with you in terms of a public service announcement. And then we come back, and it is our interview. We'll kick off from that point. So, all right, well, I'm going to read from our two books. Stay there. Don't you dare move. We start there reading because it is the Reading Circle. So we start reading from two books. For today, March the 4th, out of the book, The Power of Being Thankful, 365 Devotions to Discover the Strength of Gratitude. And that's by Joyce Meyer. God created you for an exhilarating life that often requires you to take bold steps of faith and then see Him come through for you. So many people are unsatisfied with their lives simply because they won't step out into the new things they desire to do. They want to stay in the, quote, the safe zone, unquote, which may feel secure, but is not always where the joy and adventure of life can be found. We can be thankful that God has a vibrant life in store for us. Don't let fear keep you from enjoying that life and destroying your destiny. As I like to say, quote, feel the fear and do it anyway. Do it afraid, unquote. I encourage you to include more variety in your life. Try new things. When you start feeling that life is getting stale and tasteless, add a little bit of spice by doing something different. Start thinking and saying, quote, I will not live in fear, unquote. Prayer of thanks. Father, I pray that you will help me break out of ruts and boring, lifeless routines. I thank you that you have a vibrant, exhilarating life in store for me, and I thank you that new adventures are just around the corner. Help me enjoy each and every new thing that you bring my way. That's from the book, The Power of Being Thankful, 365 Devotions for Discovering the Strength of Gratitude, and that's written by Joyce Meyer. From Iyanla Van Zant's book, Until Today. For March 4th, she says, I open my heart and mind to be aware. I cannot sit in judgment of anyone else. You may be looking at some people, observing their actions, trying hard to understand their motives without a clue about why they do what they do. From where you sit, it may seem that certain people should know better. They should be better, and they know they should be doing better. The truth is that every time you should someone, you make a judgment. This means the wrong you attribute to them actually belongs to you. When you make a judgment, you make a decision that the way things are is not the way things need to be. Your judgment reflects your belief in right and wrong based on what you may or may not know. Your judgment reveals your attitude of superiority that says you have the right to determine what must be done, how it must be done, and who must do it. Your judgment shows that you resist accepting things the way they are. A judgment is a means of control. It is an attempt to get people to do what you need and want them to do in order to feel better about yourself. A judgment is a sign of fear. It is the foundation of discontent. Most important of all, judgment is the way you set yourself up to be judged by others. People are who they are and do what they do whether or not you like it or agree with them. We each have different lessons to learn. We each take a different path to our lessons. There are times when someone's path will cross your path and cause you to stumble or fall. That does not make them wrong. That does not make you right. The only thing that a judgment does is distract you from what is that you must do for yourself, or what it is that you must do for yourself. Until today, you may have decided that you knew what others should be doing and how they should be doing it. Just for today, suspend all judgments. Learn to see things and people as they are. Find a way to be okay with yourself and others. Today I'm devoted to living without judgments. I'm devoted to letting things be. That's for today, March 5th, from the book Until Today, Daily Devotions for Spiritual Growth and Peace of Mind by Iyanla Van Zant. All right, on we go. I'm going to introduce my guest to you. He is on the line. He called me an early bird, but he actually had to be an even earlier bird this morning because he is calling out of Texas. And that is Dr. Kota J. Reddy, MD, FAAC, Sugarland cardiologist. Dr. Kota Reddy is a prominent cardiologist based in Sugarland, Texas. He completed his internship and performed his residency in internal medicine at Baylor College of Medicine. He was a research assistant in cardiology at the Stanford University in California. Dr. Reddy received his Cardiology and Interventional Fellowship at Texas Heart Institute at St. Luke's Episcopal Hospital in Houston. There he was honored to be Chief Interventional Fellow. Dr. Reddy is board certified in cardiology and is fully trained in coronary and peripheral interventions. He has been in practice since 1997. His passion is on prevention and reversal of diseases. This is what I was saying earlier. This is one everyone needs to hear. At present, Dr. Reddy specializes in the prevention and reversal of diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. Now, see, those three alone, that's the three major killers right there. He teaches his patients to live by one rule. Quote, treat your food like medication and learn how to use your grocery store as your pharmacy. Unquote. Dr. Reddy believes that food is thy medicine and has developed a low-carb bread called the Reddy bread. That's REDDY bread that is tested and proven not to raise blood sugar level. He also has a lifetime wellness plan outlined in his book, Eat This. That's what we're going to be talking about this morning. Eat This, Lose That. For more information, if you go to the website, you can find out more there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later on, but it's very easy, www.reddycardiology.com. But by the end of the show, we will have let you know more about that. So, Dr. Reddy, good morning, and welcome to the Reading Circle.
Good morning. Thank you, and great words of wisdom. No
Thank
fear
you.
and no judgment.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. Yeah, each week I kick off reading from those two devotionals, and a lot of time, in many instances, because it's totally random in terms of who's on that day as a guest and what devotional comes up. But in many instances, what's read in the devotion lines up with what the interview is about.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive.
It's something. I tell you, it is amazing to kind of see. Like, actually, I don't even see the devotion until the morning that I read it on the air, and so it's not like I'm
planning it.
Right, and it just kind of works out that way, which is good. So that's why I know there's a higher power than you and I.
Absolutely, but one good thing about this, Houston, the weather is 67.
See, I'm jealous. Now, we did have that a couple of days ago. We were there. That's right, up here in the Northeast. We've been flip-flopping. I mean, we're literally going from summer to winter like in a nanosecond, like from 0 to 60. We're going literally almost from 0 to 60, 60 to 0. So, all right, I'm going to share some information with the listening audience, public service announcement, and then we're going to come back. We're going to get started. Normally with my authors, I kind of go all the way back to like, where did they start writing? But in our case this morning, we're going to do something a little bit different, especially since you're a medical doctor, and essentially what you've done is you've written about what it is you're looking to do in terms of prevention and reversal. So I'm going to fast forward through the writing piece in terms of becoming an author, and we're going to jump straight into what we were talking about before going on the air about the whole notion of diseases and
yes,
whether they're genetic or not. So we're going to do that whenever we return. Listening audience, you know the drill. Get on all of your social, and I mean every last social media site you have, and let someone know that Dr. Kota J. Reddy is on the air with me on the Reading Circle, and encourage someone to tune in to gobrave.org. If they're in the northern New Jersey area, it would be WP 88.7 FM radio.
The thought of my sons growing up without me inspired me to quit smoking.
I talked to my doctors, and then I threw away all my cigarettes, ashtrays, and lighters.
I started exercising instead of smoking.
Staying away from alcohol when I was first quitting was key.
I kept on trying, learned something each time.
Do whatever it takes.
No matter how many times it takes.
We did it, so can you.
For free help, call 1-800-QUIT-NOW. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and CDC.
I want to tell you a secret everyone should know.
Are you listening?
When it comes to your body,
the greatest gift you can give yourself
is knowing your HIV status.
Knowing your status allows you to live your life
and stay healthy.
So follow my lead.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
And make HIV testing a part of your routine.
It's fast, free, and confidential.
Get tested today. You'll be glad you did.
Visit cdc.gov/doing it.
You're listening to The Reading Circle with Marc Medley on Brave New Radio.
Yes, indeed, you are. You're listening to The Reading Circle with your host, Marc Medley. We come to you live Saturday mornings at this time, and my guest this morning is Dr. Kota J. Reddy, and he's calling all the way out of the state where everything is big. Every time, Dr. Reddy, I have a guest from Texas, I have a good time teasing them about everything in Texas being big.
Absolutely. It's really big, including your waistline.
That's absolutely right.
In fact, I've been told that I had to buy chairs so that 450-pounders can sit. So they can't sit in regular chairs, because in the waiting room I had to have special chairs for people to sit.
I am not surprised. Folks from Texas are prideful because they say Texas is the center of the world.
That is correct.
That is right. If you look on the globe and you do the mathematical calculations, that Texas is actually the center of the earth.
Absolutely.
So anyway, and while I'm speaking of Texas, my aunt and uncle are listening out there, Emmanuel Gardner and Princess Gardner. Good morning to you. As a matter of fact, they are patients, I believe, of Dr. Reddy, and they were the ones who tipped me off to Dr. Reddy.
The whole thing.
Yes, they were like, you've got to have him on your show. I was like, great, we'll connect it. We'll make it work.
He is very passionate. He's been telling me, and he finally made this happen.
Yes, because they were telling me she would text me and I said, yeah, we're going to make it happen. I schedule guests in advance, like 2 or 3 or 4 months or by quarters in advance. So the scheduling process takes a little bit of time because I'm constantly booking. Like right now, I'm booked all the way through the end of April. And then I'll be doing, June, or what is it, April, May, June, July, August, and then on down in through the year. So we do that. And it also gives the guests an opportunity to get prepared. It gives me a chance to get prepared and the guests to get prepared. But so I am excited because, as I said when we were talking on the telephone, it is a subject near and dear to my heart only because a couple of years ago I was pre-diagnosed with diabetes, and I've so far, thank God, been able to keep from crossing over the bar. I've been able to...
let me ask you a question. When you say, what do you mean by pre-diagnosed with diabetes?
In other words,
are you telling me that you have borderline diabetes?
Borderline, yes. I call it pre, but yes, borderline. That's it.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of something called borderline pregnancy?
Well, that's a good question. No, either you are, either you aren't.
Absolutely. Then what do you think you are?
So I guess that means I'm diabetic.
So don't let anybody fool you that you have borderline diabetes. It's like telling you that you are borderline pregnant. Either you are diabetic or you're not a diabetic, because everything that happens for a diabetic also happens for someone who calls himself a borderline diabetic. That means neuropathy, damage to heart, damage to the eyes.
Correct.
Everything can also happen simultaneously at the same time, even though you're walking around proudly saying that I'm just borderline pregnant. I'm just borderline diabetic.
Wow. See, right off the bat. See, that's what I'm saying this morning, listening audience. This is going to be informed. You really need to let somebody know to tune into this one, because we're going to get into some areas here that can improve your life. Just as you just heard Dr. Reddy say, in many cases, that's what we're told. It's borderline. You didn't quite cross over yet. It's borderline. So, like he just said, either you are or you aren't. All right, so let's...
And it's become more of a social status. People walk in and say, I'm borderline diabetic. What do you mean borderline diabetic? You should wake up and say, if somebody told you, hey, you have borderline cancer, what is the first thing you do? You wake up, you go to your primary care physician and say, hey, I want you to find me the best doctor. How quickly can I see the doctor? How quickly can I take care of it? How quickly can I get this taken care of? I want this done, taken care of. But wait a minute. Diabetes is worse than cancer. It's slowly killing you, and you know that, and you're cooking yourself every day, and you're going to employ 15 doctors, and you're going to be paying $4 million by selling your body to make the medical institution rich by $4 million. Each person with diabetes is a net worth of $4 million for the institution. But not once do you ever wake up and ask with urgency, hey, I have diabetes. What am I doing wrong? How quickly can I get rid of this? This is a monster that's eating me up. I need to kill this monster. You never ask that question.
You're absolutely right. And until my diagnosis, and my mother I watched her for 30, 40 years, and I guess she must have made it look easy in terms of taking her medication and keeping the diet and everything. So I never really paid it any mind until now I was diagnosed and I started doing my research. I did not realize that diabetes was as destructive as it was to the body. I mean, there is nothing that it does not touch.
Simplify it. Think you have today's Saturday, so you want to cook a nice piece of meat. So what do? You put in a crock pot and cook for 15 hours. After 15 hours, you get a nice, well-cooked piece of meat. That's exactly what you are 15 years from now. With every meal you're eating, you're cooking yourself from head to toe. Every cell, every system, every organ is being slowly but surely being cooked. And at the end of 15 years, you need 15 doctors, specialists, to manage and maintain the disease process, not prevent or reverse the disease process, and the number of medications just to manage the disease. But for one reason only, and only one reason is ignorance of what you're eating. That's it.
Absolutely. Now, the book that Dr. Reddy has written is called Eat This, Lose that. And if you look on the cover, you can see the food that he's saying eat. And whenever he says lose that, he's talking about a handful of medication, handful of pills.
I'll give you an example. A 93-year-old African-American lady comes to my office. She's been a patient for almost 2 years up to that point. Every time I talk about it, she would just say, yeah. She's always was brought into the office by her daughter in a wheelchair. So this lady is 93 years old on 18 medications, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, swelling in the legs, severe sleep apnea, on oxygen 24/7, congestive heart failure, on a wheelchair for more than 3 years, right? She comes in. At 93, she suddenly says, look, I'm going to do your program. I said, fine. So I gave her a piece of sheet with the recipes and my bread and said, start. Guess what happened? In 3 days, she stopped her insulin, metformin, glyburide. She went on to reverse her diabetes in less than 100 days. She went on to lose 160 pounds, got off the wheelchair, started walking with a walker, then with a cane. And now, if you go on readycardiology.com, you actually can see her video of how she progressed every year, and you actually also see her climbing a flight of stairs at 96.
Wow.
And she died at 97, not because of any medical conditions. From 93 to 97, she was on 0 medications other than just vitamin D and baby aspirin and some fish oil. She was not taking any medications. But the reason she died was because she had a bowel obstruction, and she died as a complication of the bowel obstruction, not because of any of the medical conditions that were plaguing her for more than 11 to 12 years.
Wow, that's something. Not to mention to start at that late of a time, because you said she was 93 whenever she took on the program.
I recommend everyone to watch the video because it's such an inspirational video, and the way she talks, how clear, how her mind works at that age tells you how smart she must have been at age 20.
Wow.
And if a lady at 93 can change,
absolutely.
What's your excuse?
That's absolutely right. And matter of fact, I'm reading here from the introduction of your book. It says, I joined, and he's talking about himself now, I joined Baylor College of Medicine as a resident in internal medicine in 1991. Prior to joining the program, I had a general wellness exam and routine blood work, which included a lipid panel. The lipid profile was alarming. My total cholesterol was 325. Ideally, it's supposed to be less than 200. My triglycerides were 350. Ideally, that ought to be less than 150. And my HDL, which is considered the good cholesterol, was low at 26. That should be more than 60. Coincidentally, I was doing my rotation in lipids at Baylor at the time. I showed my results to my attending physician, and he asked the usual questions. Do you have a family history of heart disease, hypertension, and diabetes? Do you smoke? My response was no to all of the questions above, at which point he told me not to worry. So I did what all good patients do. I took the advice of the doc and continued to eat whatever I desired. But something inside did not feel right. So you actually took on yourself as an experiment.
Actually, everything you read in my book is what I've done on myself as a guinea pig. Not a single page has been copied from anybody. It's everything what I've learned on myself and reverse engineering done in the office. That's what the book is.
So all right, so you didn't have to test it out on the patient. So you're not telling what you think. You're telling what you know. That's what I always tell people. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know because I experienced it.
Experience.
So I'm going through here, and these are some of the things, listening audience, that's going to probably shatter some myths or shatter some truths that you think you've been told. When I began analyzing the causes of most chronic medical illnesses that plague our country, I became more convinced that diet has the greatest impact on their development. Looking at all the ingredients of most foods that we eat, I made some astonishing realizations. Here we go. Salt is not natural for us to consume in large quantity. Sugars are all the same, whether they come from fruits, sugarcane, or beets. Honey and guava nectar are worse than sugar. Fructose is the most dangerous substance you can put in your body. Sugar substitutes are no better than regular sugar. Alcohol is derived from sugar and starch. Vinegar is also made from sugar. Onions, ginger, garlic, tamarind, and carrot juice are good sources of sugar and starch. Starch, whether whole or refined, is converted to sugars in our bodies. There are no good carbs and bad carbs. All carbs are equally bad and should be avoided if you are obese or diabetic. Sugar-free does not mean zero sugar. It is either loaded with starch, malt, dextran, sugar, alcohol, or fructose. Salt, sugar, starch, fat, and caffeine are more addicting than smoking and alcohol. All fats, including fish oil, increase cholesterol. Wow. There are two sugars I need to know about, glucose and fructose. The reason why we eat carbs is because we are addicted to them, and this addiction is far worse than alcohol and cocaine. Eating cholesterol did not raise my cholesterol. It was the fat that increased cholesterol. Fat does not make you fat. Starch makes you fat. Sugar makes you fat and sick. Salt makes your blood pressure go up. The combination of sugar and fat creates plaque in your arteries. Caffeine makes you crave sugar. Now, Dr. Reddy, if I'm reading this and a listening audience listening to this, the question would come up, then what can you eat then? If all of these things you ought not eat, then the question would be, then what can you eat?
Let's go through the list. Anything and everything that does not have sugar, starch, or caffeine. For example, eggs. Do they have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No.
No.
Meats. Beef, buffalo, pork, sheep, venison, duck, chicken, turkey, goat, bison, fish, shrimp, crab, lobster, scallops, mussels. Do they have sugar, starch, and caffeine? Nope. All leafy green vegetables. Do they have sugar, starch, and caffeine? Nope. Cheese. Does it have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. What about walnuts, almonds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds? Do they have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. What about cat, cucumber, avocado, tomatoes? Do they have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. So when you have all these products, water, does it have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. Ready bread, does it have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. When you have all these products, olive oil, does it have sugar, starch, and caffeine? No. You can eat these as much as you want and still not gain weight or have obesity or complications of obesity, inflammation in your body, or diabetes or raise your blood sugar. Calories don't matter, portions don't matter, as long as you refuse to eat sugar, starch, and caffeine.
Wow, and that's what we eat the most because that's what we're marketed to the most.
No, that's why I said the reason we fail in life is because of 5 mistakes we do. 1 is bad habits. Replace it with good habits. 2, ignorance. Ask questions and find your own answers. 3, excuses. Stop giving excuses to yourself and to others. Nobody wants to hear them. 4, take full responsibility for your temple of God and have full self-respect. 5, stay in the wagon. We all follow the wagon, but nobody's preventing you from getting back to the wagon. Once you know what to eat and what not to eat, there's a difference between right food and wrong food. Stick to the right food. And my program is so simple that people who have stuck to my program have cut their grocery bill in half. So I just tell them 3 things. 1, water, my bread. I have a book with 260 recipes. Stick to the recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Do not modify. Do not improvise. Do not cheat. And I will show you, if you have adult onset diabetes and you're making insulin, I will show you 30 to 45 pound weight loss in 100 days without exercise, blood sugar normal without medications, blood pressure normal, and off medications. Hundreds of patients have done that. And my vision is simple. I want to take this low-budget program to 1 million women. Now remember, if 1 million women change, what do you think will happen to 10 million families? They'll explode.
Absolutely. If you've just joined us, my guest is Dr. Kota J. Reddy, and we're talking about the major killers, in all honesty, and that is the obesity, the diabetes, the heart disease.
Heart disease and diabetic complications.
And the diabetic complications. Absolutely. And again, like I said,
not to mention dementia.
Right.
Diabetes is the commonest cause for dementia, and by 2020, they expect every 1 out of 2 either to have, as you said, borderline diabetes or diabetes or metabolic syndrome. That means, can you imagine if 50% of the population in the next 50 years is going to head towards dementia? Because what is Alzheimer's? It's diabetes of the brain.
Wow. And a lot of times you're going to keep hearing me say wow there because these are wow moments for me. And I do a lot of reading and research. And a lot of these things, this first time has been put in this context. So that's the first time I heard that Alzheimer's is diabetes of the brain.
It's simple. In fact, that's why it's called adult onset diabetes type 2 and Alzheimer's is diabetes type 3. It is diabetes of the brain. Remember, they did an experiment. They took 2 sets of rats. One rat, a regular rat, was put in a tub of water with an island in it. They dropped the rat. In less than 5 seconds, it got to the island. The other rat, its first cousin, was dropped in the water. 36 seconds later, by default, gets to the island. What was the difference? One was on sugar, one was not on sugar. And sugar caused what? It fried the brain and led to what? Alzheimer's in the rat. And if you are consuming sugar, you're heading in the direction. If you have diabetes, you're definitely going in that direction because diabetes leads to dementia. DD, diabetes leads to dementia. So if you are walking around thinking, I've got borderline diabetes, don't fool yourself. By the time you hit 75, you might find yourself in a nursing home, and people with dementia do not die prematurely. They live a long time.
That's right. Now that I've experienced, you're right. As I go around,
a lot of people say, oh, if I develop dementia, I'm going to die. Wait a minute. When you develop dementia, you are not going to die. You're going to live here for a long time in a nursing home.
That's correct. There's a lady that I visit now that has it, and she from second to second don't know we're there.
That's right.
I mean, just ask the same question every 2 minutes. Ask the same question. I mean,
also remember, unless you're saving $5,000 to $7,000 every month to pay for the nice nursing home, you'll be put in a Medicaid-run nursing home, which is worse than a zoo.
Right. It's sad but true. I hate to laugh, but the way you said it, you're absolutely right. No, it is worse than a zoo.
Not to mention, if you get on insulin pump, it's going to cost you $1,500 a month. And even metformin, a medication, which is a generic medication, I know people stopped taking it because it's costing them $300 to $400 a month.
Correct. So when you start talking, all right, let's break this out between those who do not have it and can prevent it versus those who do have it and you can reverse it. So let's start with prevention. How do we, now somebody listening in the audience right now, you think you're fine, you have nothing, you don't have diabetes, you don't have high blood pressure, you're not obese, and you don't want to get there. What can we do to prevent it?
Simple. Stay away from sugar. Answer is very, very simple. One word. So you have to go back and ask, if you have diabetes and obesity, what is the cause? There are two ingredients. Ingredient number one, sugar. Ingredient number two, starch. So it's a mathematical equation. Sugar plus starch causes and makes diabetes worse. Sugar plus starch causes and makes obesity worse. If you want to reverse diabetes and obesity, you cannot do it if you continue to eat sugar and starch. No matter how many calories you cut, no matter how much you exercise, it doesn't matter how much you exercise. I've had marathon runners come into my office with diabetes. It doesn't matter. If you continue to fuel the fire, with sugar and starch, no matter what you do, you cannot reverse diabetes or obesity. Point number one. In fact, the more you exercise, the fatter you get if you have obesity because of a condition called leptin resistance. That means the more you exercise, the more weight gain you're going to have, and most of the weight gain is going to be only fat and not muscle mass. Now, let's go back to prevention. Go back to the issue. What causes diabetes? Sugar and starch. How do I prevent diabetes? Avoid sugar and starch. Simple. How do I prevent obesity? Avoid sugar and starch. Remember, if you were to go to British Columbia and wipe out every plant or tree that produces berries and fruits, you'll be wiping out the grizzly bears. Why is that? During fall, bears eat fruits. Within 3 days, their livers become fatty. There's a message here. When you eat fruits and sugar, you make the liver fatty. And talk to as many people as you know. Everyone says, I have a fatty liver, but they don't really concern about it because fatty liver leads to scarring of the liver and cirrhosis of the liver. 1 out of 3 people with fatty liver will have severe scarring and cirrhosis of the liver, even though they have never consumed alcohol. So bears, when they eat fruits, in less than 3 days, develop fatty liver. Once they develop fatty liver, they develop mild insulin resistance. That's like borderline diabetes. When they develop mild insulin resistance, they become hungry. When they become hungry, they start eating more, and because the insulin levels are high because of insulin resistance, they keep dropping their blood sugars and they keep pushing the fat into the fat cells. Now they get more and more hungry. The more hungry they get, the more they eat. The more they eat, the fatter they get. Once they get really fat, in comes winter. What do? They survive winter through hibernation. Now, when was the last time you went into hibernation? That is the reason once we develop leptin resistance, that's exactly what happens to pregnant women. When women get pregnant, they develop leptin resistance. Once you develop leptin resistance, you are what? Craving for food, looking for food, snacking for food, you're consuming everything that comes your way, you're converting everything to fat, you're storing everything as fat, and you're lethargic. Remember, if you're driving down a highway and suddenly realize that you have enough gas for 5 miles, what's the first thing you do? You ask your spouse to keep quiet. 2, you slow down. 3, you turn the AC off. 4, you're scanning for gas station and you're not going to talk to anybody. That's exactly what the brain does. It drops your metabolism. It thinks that you're starving even though you're 300 pounds. Even though you're a 300-pounder, the brain thinks you're like 80 pounds starving to death. So what is it going to do? Drop the metabolism, look for food, scan for food, and make you crave like a pregnant woman. Now you're eternally pregnant. You continue to worry, why am I gaining so weight? And people say, you're a sloth, you're lazy. You're not lazy because the brain is making you tired and lethargic.
Now, I've now added your book to 2 other books that have kind of really opened my eyes into 2 industries. One book is called Salt, Sugar, Fat. That's by Michael Moss. And you may be familiar with both of these books. But yes. Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss. And the other one is a book I read some years ago by Melody Peterson. It's called Our Daily Meds. how the pharmaceutical companies transform themselves into slick marketing machines and hook the nations on prescription drugs. It almost seems, and it's interesting because you're a doctor, you're actually really, from what I hear of you and now talking to you, you're actually trying to get people well where they actually wouldn't even need to go to a doctor.
That is precisely my point. Because remember, I've seen the books, but I've not read other books. You know what? What did you say? Judgment. I don't want to judge. I want to come from experience. So what I did was reverse engineering the office. I did not read other people to copy it. I started asking a simple question. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? It took me years to figure out that there's a big difference between sugar and starch. I didn't get that by through reading any book because nobody talks about it. Everything I'm going to talk to you is what I've learned through personal experience, not by reading other people. Wisdom comes only through experience.
This is true. The reason I bring the two books in is because they're pretty much giving the same message you're giving. And what they're pointing out is how the two industries that you would think would be working to keep us alive really are not. Those two industries really are killing us because the food industry, which you would think would be an industry that would be interested in keeping us alive, really could care less because they're constantly promoting the sugar, the salt, and the fat and what have you.
Right.
And the pharmaceutical industry, again, another industry that you would think that's set up to keep us alive, really aren't because they're profiting from the fact that everybody's sick.
That's right. So, but again, remember, both of them don't see patients. I'm in the field, on the ground, boots on the ground, working every day.
But as I said, but you're literally working if everybody were your patient and everybody did what you said do, you would literally be working yourself out of a job.
No, you know what has happened? In 1 month, if 200 million people did what I said, in 1 month, 90% of physicians will be bankrupt. We'll be all working for food.
Right.
And two, the economy would crash.
Right. That's the exact point I'm making, by bringing in the other two books as well. You're absolutely right. So what you're saying is counter to we as a society that's for the most part based on money, a capitalist society, is counter to that.
But that's why, what did I say? My goal is not to change the world. My goal is only 1 million women.
But that would change the world.
Let's continue eating what they're doing. I don't want the rest of them. I just only want 1 million women in my lifetime. That's it.
That would change the world.
No, it won't. We got 7.5 billion. Let's not worry about that. We are only in search for shepherds. See, one lady, this African-American lady comes from Dallas. So she comes in and she's on 13 medications. She has uncontrolled high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. She walks in with a walker. And she's very unsteady and needs support even to get up from the chair. So we start talking to her, and then finally I said, look, you are not going to change. She said, why not? Look, there are two types of people. One is a shepherd, one is a sheep. Sheep follow, shepherd leads. The sheep do what the shepherd asks them to do, and who gets slaughtered? The sheep gets slaughtered. Who makes the money? The shepherd makes the money. I said, I'm the shepherd, you're the sheep. She got so upset, she said, I am not the sheep. I'm going to be a shepherd. I said, prove it to me. Guess what happened? She went back to Dallas, changed her diet. She came back 100 days later, walked into my office without a walker, had lost 50 pounds by then, got rid of all her 13 medications, blood pressure normal, blood sugar normal, and she went on even on the Deborah Duncan show. I took her on TV, and she actually talked about her personal experience, all through changing her diet.
Now, prior to us going on the air, we were talking about this difference between genetics, and truth be told, as various groups came to the country, they did not have these diseases. If you roll the clock back thousands of years or hundreds of years, these diseases were not around, which leads us to believe that processing of food or how food is made or our diets actually drove the diseases versus it being genetic, like within our DNA or our cells.
That is correct. And if you go one step further, have you noticed you see more and more African-American men and women having lupus at a young age, rheumatoid arthritis at a young age, Crohn's disease at a young age, ulcerative colitis, multiple sclerosis, autoimmune hepatitis. Why do you think this is happening? This is called the 21st century disease. It's nothing to do with bad genetics. It's what you're doing in the form of wrong food that is destroying your gut bacteria. When you wipe out your gut bacteria, you replace it with the wrong bacteria. The gut is a place, it's a police station. That means that's where most of the immunity exists. And the gut immunity protects the body. So when you change the gut bacteria, you change your gut immunity. When you change the gut immunity, now the immunity, instead of protecting the body, is now going after the body and attacking it. Now, if the immunity rears its head ugly head and starts looking at your joints, you have rheumatoid arthritis. It looks at the colon, you got Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis. It looks at your brain or nervous system, you got multiple sclerosis. It looks at your liver, you got autoimmune hepatitis. You see, if it looks at your muscles, you got mixed connective tissue disorder. All these things happen because the immunity has gone awry. That means it's not under control. And that happens because of changing the gut. And how do you change the gut? By eating the wrong processed foods. So be very careful. Once you expose a kid to the wrong food, by the time he's 20, his immunity changes. By 25, 30, he or she starts having these problems. Next thing you know what? You basically wiped out your life.
I notice how you say these things are addictive. And this goes back again to how clearly the makers of these products know that. I mean, I know they do their research on their sides too. But again, it's because I could care less because I need it to be addictive in order for me to make a profit.
No, but remember, let's not blame the manufacturer.
No. I don't want to blame them because at the end of the day, we make the choice.
Right. Let's go back. Where do we live? We live in America. That's a free country for free and brave. That means you have the freedom to choose. Choose wisely. Just because you have the freedom to choose doesn't mean you have to choose wrongly.
Right.
So look, nobody's preventing you from making money. Nobody's preventing you from saving your money. Nobody's preventing you from being happy. It's your choice. So let's not blame anybody for what they're making. We have the right to make what we choose is right for us.
Correct.
Good. But as a consumer, I have a right to choose and say I either want to buy it or not. It's my decision. So I am not here to blame anybody. I'm here to say if you choose to be healthy, make wise choices. If you're going to give excuses and start blaming institutions, that's a big mistake. You never blame anybody. You make the changes yourself.
Correct. No, and I'm not suggesting blame at all. I'm just putting it out there in terms of there's two sides. There must be choice because that's the issue I have in New York where they try to control soda and sugar consumption. And I was totally against that because it's like, no, people should be able to decide what size soda they want to.
At the end of the day, it's your choice.
Yes.
You have the choice to drink water or soda. That's your choice.
Right. And that's why I don't think it should be legalized. That's my point. I'm with you. We're saying the same thing. I just want to.
Because the point is simple. If I come to you and say, give me $100,000, what is the first thing you say? Get out. Second, you say, why do you need $100,000? Third, what collateral are you going to give me? Fourth, why should I even consider entertaining you? Well, why don't you apply the same principles to the food you're eating?
Absolutely. Now, in terms of taste, because I know how it happens, there's a stark, and price, because there's a stark difference between the taste of quote unquote healthy foods versus the unhealthy foods, and the same thing with price. If you go up to a vending machine that has water and soda in it, the soda is $1. The water might be $1.50.
Okay, let me put it this way. Why do you have to go to a vending machine? We live in America where municipalities actually make sure most of the water is good for drinking. Okay, what prevents you from drinking tap water?
I drink
tap water.
I do too. That's a whole nother. Buying water just boggles my mind. But
it's simple. I drink tap water, and you can always install a filter in your house if you're suspicious, and you can always filter the tap water and put it in your glass bottle and carry it, and that's what I do.
Like I said, that would be a whole nother discussion for me because to me, to pay for water is kind of senseless. But there are folks who do. I mean, there are folks who every week when they go to food shopping, they come back with the bottles of water and this, that, and the other. And I've even seen the studies that say that's a myth.
That's right. But I'm not here to criticize them. I'm going to say it's my choice. I choose. It's not because of lack of money. I make money, but I choose to drink tap water filtered from my home and take it to work and drink.
Right.
Because it's a choice, not because I'm stingy.
No, absolutely. So in terms of now the notion or the idea of taste, because again, I think that's trained. It's a mindset. Yes.
I can make anything tasty with a little bit of salt and lots of black pepper. That's all. I can make anything tasty and you say, wow, I love it.
So how do you break and again, you just said it's a mindset. How do you break you've now become accustomed to the taste of whatever it is, whether it's soda, whether it's sugar cereal, whether it's whatever it is that's your thing, you've become accustomed to it, and now you have to reverse that and stop doing it.
So let me put it this way. It's like asking a cocaine addict who's so happy with cocaine, give it up.
Correct.
So that has to stem from within. That means that's why this program is not going to succeed for everybody. This is only for good for people who are willing to change, who have realized that what they're doing is wrong and they're willing to change. Rule number one. Two, if cocaine is addicting, sugar is 8 times more addicting than cocaine. How do I know that? They did a study on rats. They put the rats on cocaine and make them cocaine addicts. Then they gave them sugar. 94% of the rats gave up cocaine and went after sugar. So if it's even more addicting, and remember, the tongue has 60 different receptors for taste. Only one receptor is for sugar. Even that receptor is so powerful that once it gets triggered, you always crave and look for sugar. I went to New Orleans and we went for a swamp ride. So we were looking for the alligators. So I was thinking that the guide was going to throw in some chicken drumsticks to attract the alligators. Do you know what he was throwing in? Marshmallows. Why would an alligator be addicted to marshmallows? Is there anything like a marshmallow or a fruit or a sweet in its diet? Even though 250 million years ago they evolved, that means this gene is prevalent in every animal. And once exposed to sugar, they become addicted. So only way you can change is first you have to realize it and know that you are doing something wrong and be willing to change. Only then you will be able to change. Like in your case, you are so concerned about it. Now, the moment I tell you what is wrong, what is right, you will give up all the wrong foods and eat the right foods. Because why? You are ready to give it up.
Correct. I mean, it's kind of like people laugh at me all the time whenever I tell them, because I shared before going on the air that I lost 20 pounds almost like in 2 months. And my doctor was like, wow, you must have really been eating a lot of sugar. And I said, yeah, actually I was. And so to see it go that quickly, but people, they marvel. And I said, well, whenever you give the choice of change or die,
you choose to change. But
correct.
There are people who are willing to die and not change.
Yeah, that's interesting in and of itself, too.
I was at the African American church. I gave a talk, and my central theme was talking about sugar. But then what I did was they had a lot of donuts, so I took one donut and did a whole presentation for 45 minutes. This nurse listened to me for 45 minutes, and then at the end she said, "Are you done with donut? Yes. Can I have it to eat?" What do you say? And I'm not an average speaker because I can speak and motivate you, but in spite of that, I realize I'm a total failure because I can only fight a few battles. There are people who will refuse to change, who is a nurse, who is working in the medical industry, who is 350 pounds, is patiently waiting for me to finish my talk to grab my donut. Because it was the last donut at the medical conference.
It's, and when I'm not doing radio, I'm an educator. So I know what you mean, just in a different venue, because the same thing that you're trying to do from a health perspective, the same thing I'm trying to do with academics. When you're working with kids, that look, you're going to have to read more. You're going to have to practice your math more. You're going to have to do this. And they were like, you just like the lady with the donut. Like, thank you. That's nice. But no, I can't multiply, but no.
That's right. That's why my program is only for those people, 1 million people who are willing and wanting and hungry for change. Rest, continue what you're doing. Please keep going because my program is not for you.
That's absolutely right. And that's really almost the stance you have to take. All right, yes. I got what will fix you and what will help you, but it's up to you whether you take it or not.
That's right. I'm not pushing this. I'm only pulling it. That means only if you're interested, you go on readycardiology.com. In fact, starting Monday, we are starting a webinar series. That means it's like Netflix. You pay $50 per month,
right?
And we have 30 modules, and we're going to add 200 modules. We take a topic and rip it apart and make it explained in such a simple way: how to reverse obesity, how to reverse diabetes, how to get your blood pressure under control, how to manage salt, what is salt, what is sugar, what is starch, what is the difference, where do you get fats, what are the different types of fats, how does fat impact you, what is caramelization and what is Maillard, what is high-fat diet, what is low. So all this is so simplified that once you understand it, it becomes easy. And remember, the only way you can succeed is like Alcohol Anonymous. That means you need continuity and someone to work with you. That's what I provide on my webinar series. That means if you log in once a week and listen to me talk on a particular topic, what will happen? Every week you'll eat right. Every week you'll work on changing your bad habits. Every week you'll ask questions and we'll answer questions. Every week you'll stop giving excuses. You'll take full responsibility and stay in the wagon. By doing this, what? You're radically changing. In June, I'm starting a Sirius XM radio with the same goal every week. So as viewers, like they listen to you, will listen to me, and I keep motivating them on only one thing: change your bad habits.
Absolutely.
And ask questions and learn and eat the right food.
So what do you do now? Because clearly you're giving information versus misinformation. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And you hit a lot of them on that laundry list that I read earlier, particularly once there are no good carbs and bad carbs. all carbs are equally bad and should be avoided. But that's not what we're told.
That's right. But again, go back and ask the question, what is sugar? Sugar is sweet. What is sweet? That means fructose. Is glucose sweet? No. Where does glucose come from? Starch. Wait a minute. So there's something called sugar, that is fructose. There's something called starch, which is glucose. What is the difference? These two are molecularly the same, but they are two sides of a coin. One is heads, one is tail. The head is fructose. The tail is glucose. Okay. They are two first cousins. What does fructose do? It causes fatty liver. It causes dementia. It causes obesity. Wait a minute. The word is what? Cause. It causes diabetes. It causes dementia. It causes high blood pressure. Wait a minute. Fructose causing high blood pressure? We'll talk about it. Fructose causes fatty liver. Now, what makes fatty liver, diabetes, dementia worse? What makes it worse? Glucose. That means glucose is gasoline and fructose is fire. Fructose starts the fire. Glucose, gasoline makes the fire worse. So if you don't have fire, then glucose, gasoline will not hurt you.
We were talking prior to going on air about acceptable levels. So for someone in the listening audience that may say, okay, I test myself, I do this, I do that, and my numbers are, what kind of are the acceptable levels you should have, let's say, for example, for blood sugar?
In my program, my point is simple. I've had patients with hemoglobin A1C of 14, who are still making insulin, drop to 5 in 90 to 100 days through diet. So my objectives for them is simple. Their fasting blood sugar should be less than 85. Second, after they eat a meal, 2 hours later, it should be less than 120. If they get to that stage without medications, they do not have insulin resistance or diabetes.
And the way to do that, again, is by keeping up with the diet. Now, what role does exercise play? Because what I find is a catch-22. I believe as a part of the blood sugar, it also keeps you lethargic and sleepy. But at the same time, you're told, all right, if you exercise more, you won't be sleepy. But I don't exercise because I'm sleepy. What effect does exercise have?
The question. So the point is simple. Exercise, you can look at it as a double-edged sword. If you're on the wrong food, exercise hurts you. If you're on the right food, exercise helps you. That's why marathon runners also drop dead during the last phase of their running. Even though they have been running miles and they have been exercising a lot, yet because of wrong diet. I saw a patient on January 2nd week, 46-year-old Caucasian male. This gentleman has been riding his bike ever since he was 20. At times, he would ride 600 miles a week. At this point, he was riding 300 miles a week, came in for a stress test. 40% of the heart muscle was not getting blood supply, and his neck artery had a big chunk of plaque, and he had borderline diabetes. But wait a minute. He was 46, and he's been riding 300 miles a week. In spite of that, it did not prevent him from developing diabetes or having plaque in his artery or having a blockage in his artery, even though he had no family history. A cop comes into my office, 47-year-old. If you look at him, he looks like a GQ, trim, fit, perfect. The guy's numbers were all excellent. I put a probe on his neck. He had a 50% blockage in his neck at 47, no family history. So I asked him, Mr. X, what are you doing wrong? I spent 20 minutes interviewing him. Never could find anything wrong. Finally, you know what he says? Since I'm so good to myself, since I take care of myself so well, I treat myself every night with a small muffin. That's it. Did it. Doesn't matter how much you exercise. Doesn't matter how 80% you're doing right. If you're doing 20% wrong, it will still going to cut you into pieces.
Wow, the 20% overtakes the 80%.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's scary in of itself, because you think you're doing something by having the 80%, and you're telling me the 20% will still knock you out.
Yes, so doesn't matter how much you exercise. And also remember what I said. If you have leptin resistance, the more you exercise, the fatter you get, the hungrier you get.
You brought up an excellent point, too, because one of the other myths is that in order to be diabetic, you have to be obese or extremely heavy.
No.
And that's not true.
Diabetic. You could be skinny and diabetic. In fact, skinny and diabetic are far worse because they die much quicker with severe complications. It's the skinny who have more complications than the obese.
That's not good for me because I'm the skinny.
And you're borderline pregnant. You better deliver.
That's right. See, I'm the skinny. That's another reason that kind of threw people off. It's like, but you're so small. How did you?
It has nothing to do with size. It's everything to do with what you're putting in. And if you're skinnier you are, the more problems you're going to have. Have you noticed the skinny ones have severe disease in their arteries?
Right.
The skinnier ones are the severe disease, severe diabetes with diabetic complications, they have, renal failure and eye problems, not the fat ones.
Now, I was saying earlier how I did not realize, and I want you to talk about it from the doctor's standpoint, for those in the listening audience, to help you understand what I didn't know. And I saw my mother with it, like I said, 30, 40 years, had no idea until I started researching for myself of just how destructive the disease of. So if you get the opportunity to change it, as we're talking about this morning, to reverse it or to change it, do it, because it invades, and it is like an army. Right. It is that. And see, that's the part that I didn't realize. Every system within your body
is being slowly cooked.
Yes. And see, he's being nice when he says slowly cooked. But it's your nerve system, your vision,
eyes, your brain,
right,
your stomach, your heart, your arteries, your toes, your skin, your liver, your kidneys, your bladder, your autoimmune nervous system. Everything, bones, your aging, everything changes. Have you watched the movie The Soul Food, in where the mother,
yes,
during the Thanksgiving, what do you see? She's burning her hand and does not even realize it.
Right. And we were talking earlier about the difference between diet and genetics and ethnic groups. So if you look in the African American culture where, and part of it again, historically, how we were brought here as slaves, what we were fed, so forth and so on. But when you start looking into the ham and the pork and the so-called soul food, the fried chicken, the this, that, and the other, those things over time, and as we were talking before going on the air, well, that's what my mother cooked, so that's what I cook. That's what I was taught to eat, so that's what I eat. That's how habits begin.
It's called generational habits.
And depending on which ethnic group you're in, Dr. Reddy was teasing me. He said, if I had been African American with that diet, I'd be dead by now.
Absolutely. In 2 years, I would be dead. That's a fact. With an Indian gene, if I were to eat the African American diet, I would be dead in 2 years. Dead as a doormat. Hey, that's why I even tell the patients, they come and ask me, I can eat fruits. Well, what are fruits? Sugar, but they're natural sugar. I said, have you read the Bible? I said, what do you mean? It says forbidden fruit. In their wisdom, they said, don't eat the fruit. Simple as that. Don't ask any questions. Don't eat the fruit.
But see, again, that the myth is fruits are good for you.
Absolutely, but they're also good with sugar. And but they give me a lot of nutrients. Wait a minute, what do they give you? Sugar. What is sugar? Cause diabetes and obesity. Then if you're trying to avoid that, why are you eating fruits?
Wow.
But I like them. Yes, you like them because you're addicted to it. You never say, I love bitter gourd. You never say, I love eggs, because they don't have sugar.
So now, speaking of eggs, because things like eggs and milk, every time you look on the news, the research has flip-flopped. 1 minute, eggs are great for you. The next minute, they're not. The same thing with milk.
Let's simplify it. Let's go back to eggs. The one thing the members on this show, radio show, need to take home is simple. The listeners have to take home one simple. The secret food, which is a well-kept secret, is an egg. Why? Let's dissect it. What is an egg made of? White and yellow. What is white? Protein. What is yellow? Half of it protein. The other half, fat. Is it saturated fat? No. Is it mostly good fat? Yes. Is there saturated fat in the egg? Yes. How much? Less than 1% of what you find in a skim milk. 1% skim milk. Okay. If you eat egg, does it have cholesterol? Yes. Does it have anywhere from 200 to 300 milligrams of cholesterol? Yes. Is it absorbed? Never. 80% is not absorbed. And is there a single study in the last 110 years that shows eggs directly are related to heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, fatty liver, obesity, diabetes, diabetic complications, dementia, inflammation, cancers? No. Wait a minute. Eggs have cholesterol, but does it get absorbed? No. Is there a single study showing that absorbed cholesterol causes heart disease? Never. is the cholesterol that is formed within the body because of eating the wrong food with inflammation in the artery that causes plaque formation and heart attacks, not consumption of cholesterol. And 80% is not absorbed. Why? If you don't believe me, go back 40 years and look at the textbook of physiology 40 years ago, and it will tell you 80% of your dietary cholesterol is not absorbed. I have patients eating 8 to 10 eggs with yolk every day have come back and shown me 80-point drop in their cholesterol. And they are dumbfounded and shocked, saying that I'm eating so many eggs and my cholesterol actually dropped.
My mother was telling me at one point to eat at least one boiled egg or more every day because she was saying eggs, for the most part, are life.
Let me put it this way. What is the one food that is off life, in life, with life, gives life, sustains life, creates life? It's a perfect food that has every nutrient ingredient required for generating and creating life. Egg. Why would you want to walk away from it?
Is there any particular way to cook? I mean, is the boiled egg the best way?
Excellent question. Poached egg or boiled egg is the best way. And if you know your source, and if you're getting it from organic source, and you're on a farm and you have your own chicken and you know what the source, then raw egg is by far the best. I have patients eating raw eggs 4 years. They have not gotten sick. No cold, not even colds.
You said raw eggs. That's just crack an egg and eat the yellow yolk and everything just raw.
If you throw the yellow, it's a crime. Even God is going to frown upon you. One lady told me she cracks the egg, gives the yolk to the dog, and the white she eats it. I said, the dog is much healthier than you. Look at its fur. Look at its hair. Look at its glowing. And what about you?
Oh, so you know what? I eat boiled eggs about every other day or once or twice a week, but I guess I will incorporate more now for sure.
You can eat 3 eggs every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. One African-American gentleman comes in. He's 48, had a stroke, obese, diabetic, high blood pressure, swollen legs, and dizzy and has an unsteady gait. So he doesn't have that much money. So I said, look, your blood pressure is 200 systolic on medications. Your blood sugar is 400 in spite of being on medications. You got swollen legs, and you're miserable. Can you spend $3 to $4 a day? He said, okay, I'll manage to get it. Okay, fine. Take my bread, eat my bread for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's made of flax, and it's gluten-free, high in carb. It will not raise your blood sugar. So eat my bread for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with 3 eggs for breakfast, 3 eggs for lunch, 3 eggs for dinner. And he said he was going to get eggs through food stamps. Fine. Guess what happened in 2 weeks? He lost 20 pounds. All the fluid in the legs was gone. His blood pressure dropped to 130 systolic. His blood pressure sugar dropped to 110. His mind cleared up. He felt more energetic and started going to the gym.
Wow. I'm going to say wow again. That's been my word for this interview is wow. And again, this is not something that, let me see, because I'm not placing blame on the industry.
No,
but I am quite sure the industry would not be happy for folks to become awakened so they can start making better choices.
But ask yourself, does egg have sugar? No.
Correct.
Does egg have caffeine? No. Does egg have starch? No. Does egg give you a lot of saturated fat? No. Does egg give you salt? No. If you eat eggs, will it cause obesity? No. Diabetes? No. Diabetic complications? No. Fatty liver? No. Inflammation? No. Damage to the gut? No. High blood pressure? No. Dementia? No. Heart attacks? No. Strokes? No. Does it raise cholesterol? No. Then what's your problem?
Well, like what's to argue? You're absolutely right. So in terms of reversal, because there are many, and the myth also is out there that once you've damaged all those organs and systems, that they can't be undamaged, if there's such a word. They can't be undone.
What did you learn from Dorothy Graham's experience? 93-year-old lady.
Right.
What did she show? Change. I have a gentleman, African-American gentleman, who actually lost vision in his right eye. He could only see his hand waving just 1 foot away. So he comes in, starts my program. In less than 90 days, you know what happened? He reversed his diabetes, got his blood pressure controlled, he got himself all his medications, and his vision in the right eye started improving. He went to his ophthalmologist, sat in the chair, and could read the big letter E. The ophthalmologist was shocked. How the heck are you able to do that when I really knew that you practically lost vision in your eye? A lot of diabetics who had early changes in the retina, when they changed their diet, went back to the eye doctors, they said, wow, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing because your eyes are completely back to normal. I've had patients with kidney problems, not complete failure, but moderate failure, and the creatinines were like 3 or 3.2, dropped to 1.5, 1.6 in less than 100 days. I had ladies who have who are spilling protein in their urine. One lady was spilling 650 milligrams of protein every day. Normal is less than 10 milligrams. She was spilling 650 milligrams every day. She went on a program, dropped her hemoglobin A1C from 13 to 5, changed her diet, and the protein dropped from 650 to 150 in less than 90 to 100 days. What does that teach me? Neuropathy gone. One lady comes in. It's fascinating. This lady, 67 years old, had a motor vehicle accident. And 40 years ago, she developed a tremor in her right hand. Subsequently, she developed obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, gastritis, mucus production, bladder incontinence, neuropathy, breast cancer, and she was also having sleep apnea and atrial fibrillation. So she was on 17 medications. She comes in. She goes through the program, and she starts crying. I've done this to myself. She comes back, changes her diet. She comes back 13 days later, lost 13 pounds just by merely changing diet. You know what she shows me? I said, look at my hand. My tremor is gone. I said, what do you mean? I've had this tremor for 40 years. In 2 weeks, by changing diet, my tremor disappeared. My neuropathy is gone. I lost 13 pounds. My blood sugar is normal. My blood pressure is normal. I dropped from 17 pills to 2 pills a day. I'm sleeping better. My gastritis is gone. My mucus production is gone. 2 months later, she says, I have a confession. I said, what? I said, I had bladder incontinence for 15 years. It disappeared. I used to cough or laugh, and I used to pee on myself. I used to walk around with diapers. Now I walk around without diapers. She continued to lose weight. She lost 80 pounds. It's now almost 6 years. I saw her friend the other day. She still does not have the tremor. What I learned from that experience is that we make the same mistake every day,
Right.
because of bad habits and never give the body a chance to heal. She merely changed the course and the body started healing in less than 2 weeks. In my practice, I've learned that majority of the healing happens in less than 6 weeks to 8 weeks. Fascinating.
So the body does, once you remove the toxins, if you will, the body has an opportunity to really regenerate.
But you never give it a chance.
But you don't give it a chance. Exactly. You don't give it that chance. And that's why it doesn't, because you don't give it the chance. That's something just from changing diet. And I know, like, my wife is from Jamaica, and she constantly tells me, like, a lot of times in that island, a lot of the afflictions that we have here, they don't have there because they're eating straight off of the land, straight off of the tree,
right.
Straight off of the...
That's right. Simple food. There's nothing wrong in eating simple food.
Wow.
Are you eating for the body or are you eating for the mind? For the ills of the mind, you're destroying the body.
See, and that's back to the question I asked you earlier about taste, in terms of what you're trained of what supposedly good taste is.
But you can also make the simple food tasty.
Right.
It is very simple. I mean, I'll give you a simple example. If you were to take Greek yogurt, which is fat-free, right, and sugar-free, Greek yogurt, take equal amount of olive oil, and take an avocado, put in a blender, blend it, add a fine black pepper and salt to your liking, and add a little bit of water to make it a little more liquidy. You got a excellent tasting, creamy salad dressing. Can you beat that?
No. That's as a salad dressing. Wow.
A lot of people are eating and drinking vinegar. Hey, what is vinegar? It's a daughter for alcohol. Where does vinegar come from? It comes from alcohol. What does alcohol do? Destroy the liver. What does vinegar do? It does the same thing. It doesn't give you a high, but it still destroys the liver. So if you want fatty liver, drink vinegar.
Well, if you've just joined us, and I hope you haven't, I hope you've been with us since 6, because this has been informative. Like I said, the goal is to educate. It's also to entertain, and Dr. Reddy has a sense of humor. As you can see, you've heard me bust out laughing. But we want to entertain, educate, inspire, motivate. We want to do all of that. And this show certainly has done that. We've come down to the end of the interview, but at this time, because you heard Dr. Reddy talking earlier about the Sirius FM, about the webinars that are coming up, as we've talked about the book, Eat This, Lose That. But this is the opportunity, Dr. Reddy. I turn the mic over to you to promote. And you can do anything with the exception of saying the dollar amount in terms of where you're going to be, the webinar, Sirius FM, the book, any book signings, new books coming out, the diet, the bread. You can talk all of that. The only thing that we won't say is how much it costs, because they can find that out by going to your website. Right. So this is your opportunity to promote.
So in a nutshell, I've been in practice for 20 years. I trained as an interventional cardiologist. I've given up hospital practice and interventional cardiology. I'm now doing preventive cardiology and reversing and preventing diabetes. And my philosophy is simple. Treat your food as medication and reverse everything and use your grocery store instead of your pharmacy. And by a low-budget diet, you can, if you're willing, prevent most of the problems. Remember, any condition that has been created or is an outcome of a wrong food can never be treated or fixed with a medication. Simple. And every medication has side effects. But the right foods do not have any complications or side effects. So having said this, what do I have? I have a bread called the Reddy bread. If you want to get access to the bread, it is a low-carb, gluten-free, high-fiber flax bread and flax and soy bread. I've got 2 products. You can get it from readybread.com. I've written 4 books. One book is called Eat This, Lose That. Second book is the Eat This, Lose That cookbook. Third one is How to Interpret and Understand Advanced Lipid Profile about your cholesterols. And the 4th book is in Book of Habits. I have a webinar series which I've created starting Monday or Tuesday. It's going to go live. You can go to readycardiology.com and log in and watch the videos and learn a lot. And every week we're going to put 2 or 3 new videos. You also can go to YouTube and look up Dr. Reddy, Omega-3, Dr. Reddy Fatty Liver. I've got multiple videos. You can watch them. If you get a chance, please do watch the Dorothy Graham video on my website or on YouTube and take that as a motivational piece and learn. My objective is simple. I want this information to go to 1 million women who are willing to change, because 1 million women, when they change, 10 million families will explode. And I'm also planning to start a Sirius XM radio starting June, so stay tuned.
Well, I thank you so much for rising early with me. Like I said, you called me an early bird, but you're actually earlier because they're on Central Time, which is an hour behind us. Believe it or not, I actually have guests who call in from California. It's 3 hours behind me there. So when I'm 6 o'clock in the morning here, they're 3 o'clock in the morning there. So I do thank you for rising at the time that you did, sharing this information. Again, it's been recorded, so I will get the copy of the link to you because I put it on my YouTube channel as well.
Thank you.
The book is...
Thank you.
Eat This.
Thank you, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I really enjoyed talking with you. And remember, no more borderline diabetes or pregnancy.
That's right.
Quit and you're going to reverse it. And since it's Texas and it's Central Time, since after this, I'm going to go back to sleep.
I don't blame you. A lot of times, if I don't have another engagement after the show, I do the same. And I thank Princess.
Remember, sleep.
Yes. I thank Princess and Emmanuel Gardner for referring Dr. Reddy to me. I've had a ball on the show this morning. And again, the book is Eat This, Lose That. You have the Reddy diet as well as the Reddy bread. And again, you've heard all the opportunities you have to learn more about Dr. Reddy. I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to make the change. As I said earlier, the doctor kind of put it to me this way: look, either you change or die. And the death did not necessarily mean immediately. You heard Dr. Reddy say that's over an extended period of time. Everything in your body is cooking.
That's right. And remember, my name is easy to remember. If you forget my name, you need to be in an Alzheimer's association. Reddy. You can't get any
that's right. And it's spelled very easy, too. R-E-D-D-Y, just like it sounds.
And remember, I'm from Sugarland, Texas, who is saying don't eat sugar.
Ironic, it is.
And I want to thank Emmanuel Gardner and his wife, lovely wife. I want to say thank you.
That's right. Well, you have a wonderful day.
You too, sir.
And I'll be in touch with you. Take care.
Take care.
Oh, and thank Misbah for me, too, for all the emails and everything.
I will thank Misbah.
Okay, take care.
Bye.